Hey guys, happy Friday from Valuable Physical Education. Today we got our last section of our interview with Mr. Jacob Delgado, elementary school teacher here in San Diego. And today he goes into how he planned some of his units while he was doing his student teaching at high school. And then he also takes a look at how he's been doing Zoom curriculum this year. And it's really great. He talks about getting his finger on the pulse of his students in order to figure out what they like. And, Kevin kind of talks about hooking them. So let's go ahead and take a listen to this, and we'll give some final thoughts of the week after this section of the interview is done. So here we go. Back over to Valuable Physical Education with Jacob Delgado. How do you go about shaping your units and then your lessons right now, both maybe both pre-COVID, and then maybe we can get into how you've worked with them a little bit since we've had to be on Zoom and doing them that way as well.
Mhm. So pre-COVID, um, got a lot of experience with this working in like the high school level, working over at Helix during my student teaching. They had it already kind of planned out, like we're going to do football for this amount of weeks, very sport specific, swim, volleyball, whatever the sport may be. It's like, okay, so I would always start out the unit. What's the most fundamental part of each specific sport that they're going to need, no matter how good they are? Like, what skill do they need to work on or improve in to be able to play the game? And then from there, just kind of build off of each other. So, take basketball, for instance. Like, okay, very least, know how to pass the ball. If you can pass the ball, if someone gives the ball to you, you can get rid of it and know how to give it to a teammate. Then from there, work on dribbling. Like, oh, I can't pass the ball right now. Let me dribble to a spot so I can get rid of it and get it to a teammate. And then I would keep going on skills until it got to a point where, all right, you know enough skills to play a game. Now we're going to work on gameplay, but not just jump straight into 5-on-5. We'll do like 2-on-1 or 3-on-3, king of the court games with small groups, and then incorporate different rules, and then eventually work up to like full-on games.
Yeah. That's awesome. Quick question I had for you. No right or wrong. I'm assuming at Helix. I mean, we're both familiar with that high school. I'm assuming you probably had 60 kids in the class. Is that accurate?
That's pretty accurate. Yeah.
Okay. And then you're there with you're the student teacher, which is fine. You have your classroom teacher. I'm going to assume that he or she gave you full reins and they kind of took a step back and let you teach the class, right?
Yep.
So when you would do those skills you were talking about, huge skills in basketball for sure, passing, dribbling, all that. Were you big on doing stations with those kids to spread them out, and there'd be like 4 or 5 stations and you knock them out in one period? Or would you specifically for one class say, we're going to focus on passing with all of you at the same time, which there's no right or wrong. It's just interesting how you went about it.
Mm-hmm. I would definitely just focus on one skill at a time at the introduction, and then eventually get them into stations once they had learned enough skills. Like, okay, here's this station is going to be this skill, this skill, this skill, this skill, and we're going to rotate every X amount of minutes,
Awesome.
And then we'll move on to the next task.
And then did you eventually, like you said, after the modification games, did you get to gameplay eventually?
Oh yeah, there were some kids that like Helix always has those athletes, those athletic kids. They were just kind of chomping at the bit, like, when are we going to play? When are we going to play? And I'd be like, hold on, take it easy. We're going to get there. Just wait.
Well, like you said something that hit home to me is that you thought about the skills that everybody needs, not just not just those students that haven't played before, not just the students who would consider people who haven't really played any sports, and I think that's an important lesson for those kids who have played a lot and are chomping at the bit to get in the game, to realize that now you still need to practice these things. Did you do anything extra to challenge those students that maybe were a little bit further along? Because I know at elementary, most kids are pretty close. Middle school, the gap kind of starts to widen, and then by high school,
And I'm sure you had some kids in there that are like awesome basketball players, and you got kids in there that are, probably haven't touched a basketball since the last time a PE teacher made them touch a basketball. So, did you do anything to try and, like you said before, differentiate your teaching between those students when you do dribbling drills, passing drills?
I actually got really lucky with the group of kids I had. They were all very respectful towards one another, so it made pairing them up with students who weren't like similar ability very easy. They were willing, they understood, like, yeah, I know I could do these things. I'm not here to kind of show off. I'm here to help this person figure out how to do it. Yeah. So I got very lucky in that respect.
It's interesting you say that, because our last podcast, we went in great detail with our other coach and physical education teacher. It's so important to scan your environment, and you clearly at Helix scanned your environment and said, okay, these kids can handle this class can handle with different levels working. Because there'll be sometimes in a PE class where you'll have a group of students where it's like, you know what, they're really elite. It's probably best if they're in their own section and doing their things, and because that's what's best for the class. And sometimes you're right, it's best for the class to mix them all up together, and they help grow each other, in the game. So that's cool. I'm going through it. You're going through it right now. We're in the same district. I'm curious what your thoughts are on Zoom PE, and what are some of the positive things you're doing with lesson planning. You clearly showed what you did at Helix at the high school level. What are your lesson plans looking like right now at the Zoom level at the elementary?
So Zoom level, like you guys know, has been a whole nother animal. It's trying to get these kids to get up and move, and just sometime in the morning, just get out of bed. That's all I'm trying to get them to do. Afternoons, it's a little bit easier. They're up, they're already doing their thing. So my big push is just to have them move, get their bodies moving. And a lot of what I'm doing now with them is just focusing on different locomotor skills and combination of locomotor skills, and kind of addressing the 5 areas of fitness, like muscular strength, muscular endurance, flexibility, BMI, and cardiovascular fitness. I was like, what? So I try to rope that in with everything that we're doing, so that way it's covering one of those components, and then they can I usually wrap it up with, all right, how can you do this outside of class? How can you take this outside of school and apply it to your life? And I kind of challenge the kids over winter break. It's like, hey, when you come back, I want to hear about what you did over break. Not like opening presents or spending time with your family, mom, dad, aunts, uncles. Like, did you go for a walk? Did you go play outside? How many days did you play outside? Stuff like that. And I was actually pretty surprised when kids told me, like, oh, I went for a walk every day with my dog, or I went to the park and I did this. Like, oh, that's awesome. That's cool. You guys actually did it.
Yeah. When that happens, that's definitely a good feeling. I had a few of those times when school shut down last year, and it feels good when you feel like you're making an impact. So, Zoom has definitely been a different animal. Has there been any one thing that the kids have just really enjoyed? I mean, I know you said you want to try and make an impact by allowing it to be fun too, but what's maybe been, at least what you've seen, that the kids' favorite activity to do via Zoom?
Mm-hmm. So I'm sure like most PE teachers, I've been going to YouTube and trying to find different things, like different videos, activities to do. Mm-hmm. And I try to keep an ear to like what the kids like. And I know a lot of kids like the game Among Us. So I found some fitness related videos on YouTube that are themed with Among Us. They have the little characters, and one of them is a 4 corners game. Kids love it. They pick a corner and it has a different Among Us character. They usually pick their favorites, and then it flips a corner, and if there's it'll show like a point or no points, and they're trying to see how many points they can get. And then they do an exercise that correlates with whatever corner they picked, and they eat it up. I had a class ask me today, like, "Hey, can we play the Four Corners Among Us game?" Like, okay, yeah, sure. It wasn't my plan, but if you guys want to, let's do it.
Yeah.
That's awesome to hear, because, for someone who's been teaching elementary PE now for about 7 years, that's the key, I would say. Like, in a sense, it doesn't even really matter what you do, whether it's soccer, basketball, football, like, as long as it's within the standards, it's safe, the principal's cool with it, the community's cool with it. You got to hook them, and if that's the drill that hooks them, and that creates the ultimate trust, and that creates them like respecting you, you got them. And then you just go with it. And then, so, it sounds like whether you know it or not, you're creating culture, you're creating trust. When kids are coming up to you, those are all music to our ears of experienced PE teachers. When kids are coming up and saying, "Can we play that game again?" That means you hit it out of the park, So, and well, Coach, it's been a pleasure. It's crazy, but we used to play at Valley Wide at Hemet High. Hemet High. We used to, go to the same elementary school, and it's just pure joy to see someone that's gone kind of through the same education system that you. We went our separate ways in college, but I think you're doing some great things. I think you're making Hemet High proud. I'm really glad you got on. I think it was a huge advantage, because when Coach and I talk to maybe kids that are going through the process of becoming a PE teacher, and they're student teachers, I hate to say it, I won't say it about Miles, but I'll say it about myself. They think I'm old, and they're like, "You did that 10 years ago." And I think it's good to get someone that went right through it and said, "This is what happened." And I think you gave some really good examples about grit, and Miles touched up on it, but I can't thank you enough. And I'm super proud of you as a fellow Hemet High graduate. And I'm really lucky we work at the same district, and Burbank Elementary is lucky to have you. So thanks for coming on today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciated it. It's been fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
No problem.
All right. What a great way to wrap up a Friday. Physical education has been weird on Zoom, and whether it's Zoom or whether it's back in person, no matter where you're teaching physical education right now or how you're teaching it, I think, Kevin kind of hit it on the head there, where if your kids get hooked on something, you can't be afraid to keep using it, and Jacob said it in part of his interview there toward the end, was that, he wasn't planning on doing that game, but the kids were asking him for it, and they really want to do it. And if they enjoy it and it gets them active, then you've clearly instilled something in them that is important. And so, by all means, go ahead and let them, get after it. I kind of shied away from this some early on in my teaching, was where, I think that you got to do a unit a certain amount of time, and you got to get a certain amount of sports in throughout the year, and you can still hit a lot of those standards without having to go through so many different sports throughout the year. And if you find one that the kids really like and they're all into, and you're meeting their needs of activity and teamwork, or maybe it's activity and it's an individual sport, and they're getting better at some certain fundamental skills, but they really enjoy it, then by all means you should keep going after it. Get these kids hooked on activity that's going to keep them healthy and active. I think that's one thing that we've seen, over this time with COVID, that is, it's important to understand that keeping your body healthy will help you fight off, some of these things. And so, I think it's important for us to really instill that in these kids and get them active. So anyways, great interview this week. Really enjoyed talking to him. It's great to have a newer teacher on and get their perspective. They often have a new excitement, but they also have some stuff to learn, and so it's good to get that balance. And I think, no matter where you're at in the teaching spectrum, whether you're brand new, student teacher, you've been teaching forever, I think we need to talk to each other, have some discussion, and really, make physical education, an important piece of all kids' education right now. And so, let's continue to do that. Next week, we're going to have another great interview, and we're going to continue to try and tailor this to what people want to hear. So if you have any questions, if you got comments, again, send them our way. Follow us on Instagram at Valuable Coaching, on Facebook at Valuable Coaching. Subscribe on YouTube at Valuable Coaching, or listen to us on Spotify, wherever or wherever you listen to podcasts, whatever works best for you. So anyways, thank you guys so much for another great week. Have a great weekend, and we look forward to getting back with you guys again on Monday. I want to thank our sponsor, One Stone Apparel. They do great physical education clothes. Made us this great polo for Valuable Coaching. And they do awesome vocabulary tees. Perfect for physical education. They got great words on the back. You can customize them. Great artwork. Easy to work with. Dave at One Stone Apparel. Check them out, onestoneapparel.com.